Hey guys, it's Chris, and today I'm going to be using my Tom Anderson Lil Angel player to talk about Okoume as a Tonewood. As you guys may have noticed over the past 10 years, obviously due to years and years of manufacturing guitars, that mahogany is a harder and harder wood to get. And consistently when we see mahogany guitars, they're very heavy. And that's always been kind of a double-edged sword. You want the warm tone, you want the thick mids, but you have to have a sore back and shoulder in order to get it, especially when we think about guitars like Les Pauls, and we think about guitars like maybe Paul Reed Smith custom 24s and 22s, and all those kinds of things that were maybe at times heavier because of the choice of wood. Well, now there's a lot of different variations of wood that have come in as substitutions for mahogany. And there are things like, Limba and Carina and Okoume and Sapele. And all these woods are different, various relatives of mahogany. They're hardwoods, and they do retain that dark reddish color, and they do have similar densities, so to speak. But when we take a further look into each one, they do offer different tonalities for each specific wood. And one of the hardest ones that I had, I had a hard time finding information on was Okoume. Now, since Okoume is such a unique wood, when I bought this guitar, I was left in a very interesting spot of, would I have ordered a guitar with Okoume if I wanted to, order myself an Archangel, which is a short scale angel with, the variation of it being dominated by maple top and mahogany choices, or things that are similar to mahogany to achieve a warm tone? Or would I want to get, Limba? There are a few different things that they offer, again, that offer the tonal variation that is similar to mahogany, but again, everything is different. So this video is really to take, a decent look at why Okoume itself is different from some of these other woods and my experience with Okoume. Now, Okoume is an African wood, and it is very, very light despite the tonal variety that it provides, in the sense that it is very similar to something that like a mahogany in mid-range. And it has a very crisp top end that might even be more preferable for some people, because sometimes mahogany on its own with maple on top, you can't get the right blend of highs and lows together. So that's why this guitar kind of spoke to me in the sense of a deep research level of Okoume. Now, we've seen brands like PRS, and we've seen brands like Sur take on Okoume as a wood, especially with Sur and their modern that they did a few years ago, the raw modern. That actually was an Okoume body, though it looked very much like mahogany, and it has some nice ribboning and it has some nice grain to it. It is a very, very different feeling, considering, I've owned a lot of mahogany guitars, so I know that I can hear the difference, and I personally can feel the difference in the response of it. So throughout the journey of trying to find out more about Okoume, I decided that I'm going to take a deep dive, because I saw this guitar on Making Music site, and I was like, I need to have it. So I bought the guitar, and it came in, and I had talked to several people who work at Anderson. Hunter, thank you so much. You're awesome, dude. And he was like, to me, it has a very mahogany feeling, a very mahogany mid-range, but it has a crispier top end. And on a very general sense, that is correct. But I did want to get into the specifics and the details of this, because Okoume is an option that you can get on, the Archangel series. Like if you want to order, again, an Angel, but it has the 24th, 3/4 scale, and, those variations of that with the 24 fret, 24 3/4, and more of a mahogany dominant style tone. Guitars that focus on a strong mid-range. So with this particular guitar, it came in, and of course I pulled it out, and you guys, maybe some of you guys have seen my video where I do the box opening and the smoke alarm went off, which is hilarious. This guitar is too hot to handle, but really in all seriousness, I was pretty amazed at how acoustically the guitar was very, 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 very even. And it has a very balanced tone across the spectrum. We all know that when we go into the guitar store, right before you plug in a guitar, you kind of feel it out. And you're sensing, is this one of those guitars that has more of that kind of absorbative sound where the strings can sound, I'm not trying to use this as like a negative, but like more rubber bandy, where that when you play the notes, it's more like a sponge. The high end kind of soaks into the guitar, so to speak. And you're kind of left with more of a stronger root note that is, you know, very full sounding, but maybe not bringing you the clarity that you're looking for. And we've all played guitars that are very bright acoustically, where if you're not careful with the guitar itself, you end up with a situation where the guitar is so bright and plinky that even pickup changes, even alterations to your amp really can't solve the sound. So here's where Okoume comes in. I pulled out the guitar and I played it, and it sounded so even. And the way that it responds is very unique. I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of Anderson guitars through the NAMM shows and able to go to shops like, you know, Gelb Music and go to different shops all around that had Tom Andersons, even Starving Musician, which, you know, is close to me in Santa Clara, California, and have tried variations of a lot of mahogany Andersons, and I've tried a lot of PRS Custom 24s, and I've tried a lot of Gibson Les Pauls and SGs. So I'm very familiar with what a lightweight, great mahogany sounding guitar sounds like, and I'm also very familiar with what it sounds like when we're trying a heavy piece of mahogany that sounds really good. And I've tried light and heavy mahogany that sounded terrible, and it didn't have the tonal response, and it didn't have, you know, the variation in sound that would make a versatile guitar or a versatile instrument for somebody looking to do different sounds like I do. So pulled this guitar out once again, started playing it, and realized how even it was across the spectrum. And this guitar, before pickups, has a very, very, very even sound. It reminds me actually a lot of how basswood is even. But what's interesting is it also has a lot of power behind the notes. And it reminds me a lot of how mahogany has punch and also how Koa has punch. Now, Koa's punch and mahogany's punch are a little bit different. But when I say punch, what I'm talking about is that innate immediacy of the note and the weight behind the note. So when you hear a note, there is a depth to it that is accompanied by the clarity, but there's a sub-level sound that when you hear it, you're like, wow, that's thick. And you can hear it in the single notes. These are the kind of guitars that you can play like 70s rock guitar riffs on and be thick. So the guitar itself is very light, weighing in at 6 pounds and about 8 ounces. That is one of the reasons that Okoume is a very good wood choice. So as far as the wood choice for weight and as a replacement for mahogany, this is awesome. A lot of mahogany guitars in recent years, if they're not weight relieved, or you can take a replacement wood like Sapele, a guitar this size could still end up in the 8-pound range. And for me, I always aim for something that's a little bit around 7 or under. I'm one of those guys who like light guitars for my performance, and also and not so much for my shoulder will hurt, because I'm lucky I'm still young enough that my shoulder doesn't hurt from playing a guitar yet. But what I do notice is I feel like I can be more agile and move around with a guitar like this. And if your shoulder does hurt, or if you do experience some types of pain, this is a great wood option over Sapele, and maybe over even things like Limba and Carina, which can still weigh a little bit more. So you have to take that into account. You're getting a good low end, it's balanced, you've got punch behind the notes, and it's lightweight. So these are some qualities that are already on the table, make it a very, very good choice as a replacement for mahogany, considering that lots of mahoganies have a lot of different variation in the sense of, okay, is that mahogany that you have, really mahogany, or is it one of these variations of wood that was a substitute and they're just calling it mahogany? So again, Okoume, to the name, to the word, is a really good, nice light wood. And one of the choices for that is, one of the reasons it's a choice is because of that. Also, it's a very open grain wood, so this is soft. I have a guitar that is made of pine, and pine is also very soft as well. So this is the kind of guitar that if you put your nail into it, or you're one of those people who like pokes your pick on your guitar, it's gonna dent really easily, especially if you have a thin finish on it. This one's got a nitro finish, and it's really gorgeous. It makes the guitar breathe like crazy, and you can feel the movement of the body wood when you're playing it. So that's one of the really big things about this guitar that really caught my eye. The double humbucker setup also puts this in a very, advantageous place to compare it to things like Les Pauls and SGs. So that's what I dig about this particular setup. Okoume also is the thing about it. Once I plugged it in, I started discovering that it has a lot of harmonics. And the harmonics surround the note kind of like a pillow. So you kind of have the dominant fundamental note, and you have all these harmonics around. In some guitars, you can hit really hard and you won't awaken too many harmonics around the note, right? Well, this particular guitar, if you really hit the notes, it's going to awaken a lot of harmonics around the edge. This is very reminiscent to me of when I played a koa and basswood body guitar together, where there is so much harmonic content when you're playing clean. It is so interesting to listen to because this guitar clean sounds really good, but it has also the ability to be very dry sounding and very just to the root note if you play softer. So remember that if you're heavy handed and if you're looking for Okoume to be a wood for you, you might either want to use thicker strings with the guitar. This still has the standard 10s on it, but you might want to utilize something like 11s on a short scale like this, and maybe you can get something that's a little bit more traditionally mahogany body guitar sounds with still being able to have your attack. If you're a soft player, that's where this really comes into play because it compresses easily. When you're playing soft, you can get the shimmery sounds out of it. But if you push it a little bit, you're going to start getting into a territory where now the compression is there. So alternate picking feels really easy and nice on this. It feels, dare I say, silky. You can, once you get it to that point that you have the perfect picking hardness with it and figure out the pick that's right for the strings, you're going to have sustain and you're going to have an easy time achieving a nice compressed clear note. And with a little bit more hit to it, you almost have a guitar that's yelling. It has all the harmonics and it adds a lot of dimension to the sound. And if you use that articulately and you use those hits in a very musical way, those are still very usable sounds. But I do want people to understand that if you slam on this guitar with your picking technique really, really hard, it's going to sound so meaty that it would almost seem like a little bit unclear. But it's not. It has to do with how you react to this guitar and also how you set your amp. So how you set your amp is going to also play a factor in it. One of the other things that I really like about this particular guitar, so I'm just going to talk about the guitar real quick before we get into sounds. The Little Angel Player, one of the reasons it's one of my favorite guitars is, again, it's a single wood. So this one is Okoume through and through. This isn't a guitar that has a maple cap or anything on it. So we're in the position to really be able to observe this wood with these really cool Tom Anderson humbuckers. Right here we got the HC 2+, and so that is a covered version of the HF series pickups, which is a vintage style bass, path-like, and with a little more output. So this one right here has got a great ability to do some rock riffs, and we're going to do some riffs with overdrive with this, and we're going to do some stuff on my Marshall JCM 800, for you guys who love tubes, and we're going to do some stuff on the Neural DSP Tone King, so you guys can kind of hear some edge breakup tones as well, and be able to hear it from a digital and analog standpoint, so you guys have a really good reference of what this wood sounds like. I want you guys to know what it sounds like because it would have been great if someone had given reference to what it sounded like and I could feel the comfort when buying this guitar, even though it turned out great, which is good in my shoes, but You know, it could have been a very, you know, you could buy something and it could be not what you want. So that's again what this video is for. We have the HC1 in the neck. So again, the HC2 plus, the HC1. And what I like about the HC1 over here is it's very open. And because of the nature that this has a very mahogany kind of sounding body, you get some very, dare I say, jazzy tones here, especially if you can just turn your tone knob down a little bit. This does have a 5-way selector. So again, you know, full neck when we're up here, you know, little splitty neck when we're here, right here, both buckers, right here, split buckers, right here, split bridge, and then right here, full bridge. So we've got a lot of sounds that we can kind of cover. I'm going to be playing some open chords and some basic riffs. This isn't a demonstration with a bunch of guitar solos with delay and reverb on it. I want the player to be able to hear the sound of this guitar and this wood, so you guys can make decisions based on its tonal variety and how it sounds, and then you guys can be aware. The mid-range in Okoume is a little bit different than mahogany by it being a little bit more, and it's still in a low mid area, but instead of it being in maybe that so strong and like, though with my Les Pauls and in my experience when I had a lot of, you know, my Cobra S from Tom Anderson as well, the mids were kind of placed in an area that was a little bit lower register because of the nature of the wood, between 100 and maybe 250 hertz, where I feel that this is kind of like a little bit like kind of like askew, where it's like maybe 250 hertz to maybe 400 is more presented. And this also has a nice high-end bite in the high mids that sits around the 1.2, 1.5K that is very great for clarity, but isn't too ice picky where you're like, please turn the treble off. This guitar does have very articulate attack. The way that the tone I would characterize this is very similar to the Tom Anderson Cobra S. It sounds very similar to a Gibson SG, where it's thick and warm, but at the same time, because of the thinner body, it's bright. I'd say that this guitar has a little more vintage of a tone than something like a Paul Reed Smith custom 24, because of the scale length. This is actually 24 3/4, not 25 inches. So again, it's a different sound. So I just really want to go over that with you guys. On the back here, let's just talk about this real fast. Look at how gorgeous this is. This is beautiful, huh? So right here, we've got the chocolate maple neck. So we're getting a maple neck. So that is going to give us some of that, you know, maybe what it's like to have a maple top. And then on the front over here, we're rocking a rosewood board, which is very old school. And you don't get rosewood as often anymore. So this was something that that made the guitar really appeal to me. So without further ado, we're going to go into the demonstrations. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me while I gave an explanation of this before we get started. right, guys. So in conclusion, after checking out the Okoume wood with the Tom Anderson Little Angel here, I'm pretty sure you guys have got a much better idea of how this wood sounds with the pickups that are in here. Again, the HC1 and the HC2 Plus. And again, this guitar has a trem on it, so it does offer some different tonal options compared to the normal mahogany offerings of a lot of other brands. Again, you know, things like PRS, things like Gibson, all those other brands. This just offers a different variety. And as you can tell, if you're hearing the neck pickup is definitely not the exact traditional tone that we're used to when we're used to hearing something out of a 22 fret mahogany body guitar. But I think we're getting awfully close here. And at that point, we're splitting hairs. Once the amp's turned up, once things are going, it sounds really good. You can just add a little more gain or raise the pickup to get a little more of that fuller sound that you're looking for from the neck pickup. In the bridge pickup position, I'm absolutely in love. You obviously noticed I was playing some 80s, 70s, and 90s guitar riffs just to kind of give an idea of how this humbucker sounds going into something like a Marshall JCM 800 and how it has that very even response across the tonal spectrum. So again, I think that the Okoume body really does hit the mark when it comes to being a replacement for mahogany, with a lot of the benefits of it, a couple of the cons of it, and definitely the lightness that you would want. I mean, obviously, the compression that comes from something that is a mahogany family guitar is going to be a little less open and might not do bluesy music as well, or might not do certain things with the what I would like to call the bubbly sound, or the bloop, where it goes bloop when you hit it. This one kind of has more of a thwack to it, where you can hear the mid-range and it just has power. So I hope this gave you guys a more well-rounded view of Okoume as a wood. And if you have any more questions, feel free to leave comments in the video. And if you want DIs, I'm going to try to set up a way for you guys to get those from me easily. So you can take anything that was recorded into the Neural DSPs, the Plini and the Tone King. The Tone King's my favorite, but any one of those two, you can utilize them to try it out in your rig, and you can hear what this body and wood combination sounds like without any adulterations to it. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to check out my video. I know this is a long one, but I did want to give this wood an in-depth look and some talking and some playing with some different stuff. Again, it's me. I'm trying to keep it simple so you guys could hear the tones. There's a lot of just like letting the guitar ring out. I want you guys to hear the sustain of this guitar and the harmonics. So again, if you guys have any comments or questions, please let me know. This is meant to be informative for you guys, not as much of an entertainment video. Don't worry, I got more songs on the way, and this guitar is on some of those songs. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you all later. And above all else, stay toned and toneful.